people talk about leadership like it's theory. I've lived it in the mud, the chaos, and the moments nobody writes about. This show is the truth, raw, unfiltered, and built for leaders who actually give a damn. If you're ready to grow, ready to own your own story, and ready to lead from the front, you're in the right place. Speak up, show up, lead. Let's get into it.
All right. I believe we are live. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm good, JJ, but I can't see you.
You can't see me.
And I think we are live.
Well, let me hide me again.
There we go.
Okay. Well, that was weird because I could see both of us, but that's okay. That's why being on a live show is always just a little bit interesting.
That's right.
But no, so welcome everybody to another episode of Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. Today I'm here with Chris, and we're gonna do some leadership live conversation. And today we're gonna talk about reclaiming you, because we all know that sometimes we drift from our own identity, and we have beat this dead over the last couple months, 3 months. I don't know how long we've been doing it. We've been talking about this, this whole thing about identity and how you can lose your identity and stuff like that for quite a while. But today, we're just going to have a quick conversation about what to do when you've noticed that you're starting to drift. And this is a really good time to talk about this, because if you wait till the end of the episode, then we're going to tell you what we're talking about in the new year. So,
that's right.
So what's new with you, Chris? What's happening, dude?
Same old stuff, just staying busy at work, getting ready for the holidays. At this point, today is December 20th, so we're 5 days away from Christmas.
Yes.
And that's pretty much going to be my world for the next 5 days. Is like, all right, what's going on for Christmas? How about you?
Oh, well, kind of the same. I'm preparing for business in the new year, which is always what I do this time of year. Next week, that comes to a prompt halt as well, just because, the kids aren't in school. My daughter might still work, but they're going to want to go out and do things. I mean, we might go look at Christmas lights, all the stuff that, just like you, is associated with what you do around Christmas time. And I know you're dealing with one of the other things that happens around Christmas time, and that is that wonderful white stuff that falls on the ground.
Yeah. That's right. Yes.
But no, I mean, that's pretty much it. But it's a wonderful time of year. I enjoy the music and everything else that comes with it. So the fact that we're almost there and it's almost over, I like being able to turn on my car radio while I'm driving and listening to Christmas music. But yeah, let's get into this conversation about noticing you're drifting. So what to do when you've drifted? What's your take on all that?
It happens, and it often happens slowly, right? So maybe you get yourself into a situation, or you're part of an organization, and you adapt to be, I guess, more of a fit to the culture. Maybe you were a fit to begin with, but maybe there's some nuances that weren't quite you from a personality standpoint. And I know that I've talked about this, like you said, JJ, this series has probably been our longest series. So I kind of feel like we've beaten a dead horse on this topic, but this is a good way to bring it home. You start to change little things about the way that you view something, the way that you address things. And then you come to the realization of like, man, that's really not me, like at the core level. and I need to get back on course. It happens to everybody. If it happens to you, it's not a failure. It's not, anything that's negative on your part, unless you don't address it and, figure out how to get yourself back on course.
Right. And, it can be small things, right? It could be, it's not you failing at what you're doing. It's not you doing it, just like you said, anything wrong. It could be small things, right? So it could be that maybe you didn't help that one person and that's not your typical thing and you were just really, really busy. Well, fix it. Maybe it's some sort of a compromise that you wouldn't normally make, and you made it because you just have so much stuff going on that you didn't want to deal with discussing it anymore. So you made a compromise. Well, it can be small things like that. But the important thing is, just like anything else, this is self-leadership. This is no different than team leadership. This is why it's important to understand that you need to lead yourself before you can lead others, because the same thing that you would do with them, you do with yourself. Once you notice you're going off course a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. It's what you do about it that matters, and that course correction is exactly the most important thing to do.
Absolutely. And maybe it's auditing yourself on maybe a monthly basis. It doesn't have to be a regular basis. I was just talking to someone last week about getting in this mindset of being 1% better every day.
Yeah.
And what are some of the tools to do that? One of them is a daily reflection, where you ask yourself 4 questions at the end of the day. What did I accomplish or win today? What did I not accomplish today or fail at? What do I need to do better? And how do I need to do it? So maybe once a month, you add a 5th layer to that and say, am I still me? Like, very simple, but be mindful about it, be purposeful about it, of looking at, hey, you know what? Am I still the same person now that I was last month when I look in the mirror? And if not, am I happy about any change or not happy? And if I'm not happy, how do I address it and get back to where I should be?
I think this is an important time to bring up, Chris, that sometimes doing that personal inventory requires doing the very basic thing, and that is practicing mindfulness.
Yeah.
And, how often do we just sit down and kind of, I'm going to talk about the ushy-gushy thing, right? But, maybe close your eyes, feel where your feet are, feel where your hands are, kind of notice your breathing. I mean, once you go through the process of paying attention to those things, the thoughts are different. You start thinking of your inner dialogue, which is you, and you can start, that's like the perfect time to do that personal inventory, because you're going to start thinking about stuff through a different lens, and it's the most important lens, because if you're really trying to be you and notice what things are going on in your life, good, bad, right, or wrong, when you have that complete silence, that is when you have complete control over what you think about, what actions you take, all those things. And so if you don't do that every day, by the way, it's not a bad practice to get into. It seems weird. As I said, a lot of people think of that whole it is meditation, right? But without going into the whole Buddhism thing or whatever, you can think of it just as practicing being in your current moment, and doing that when you're trying to reclaim your own identity is probably one of the most important steps you can take.
I'm gonna second that, because I got introduced to like mindfulness behavior several years ago, and I'm one of those people who was always like, dude, that's like way too soft for me. Mindfulness is a bunch of garbage. And I'm looking at it through the lens of like, I'm a guy who, I like to get out in the woods. I like to, lift heavy weights. I I choke people for a hobby. Like, you know what? I'm a man's man. And then I was like, I'll give this a shot. And damn it, if it doesn't work. Like, and that's where this practice of like asking these 4 self-reflection questions every day came from. So it's not a soft thing. It's not, super mushy. It's beneficial. Like, learn how to be mindful, look inside, and you can't fix your performance if you don't look at the root, and oftentimes the root is you. So yeah, I'm on board now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what happens when you get older.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
You start. I think that what you just got done discussing, which is why I kind of put that mushy gushy warning out there before I started talking about it, is you're so worried about the perception of others.
Right.
When you get older, I'm going to be honest with you, you worry less. Yeah, you don't, right. Or less eloquently, you just don't give a shit anymore. I mean, and actually that when you don't care what other people think, that actually gives you freedom. Think of stoicism. Think of the leadership traits that I learned when I was in the military. All of those things, it teaches you that warrior mindset. And that warrior mindset is to be unshakable. You can't be unshakable unless you kind of take all of those preconceived notions that you think somebody else might be thinking about you, or they said something and now it's making you think something about yourself, or whatever the case may be. Talk about identity. This is self-leadership here. I mean, you really have to put those to the side and focus on you. Because guess what? At the end of the day, those people are not going to do the things that you're doing. You have to do those things. And so you hold yourself back, if you tell yourself you're not good enough, that imposter syndrome, if you say, oh, I got to wait another week to get that thing done, and then things just start piling up, they don't have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. So, so many people have these big audacious goals and they never accomplish those things because they just think all kinds of false crap that isn't even true. I mean, fear is, it's many things, but what it is a good teacher, because if you hold yourself back because of those fears, you're never going to get anything done.
That's right. Nothing holds you back more than the space between your 2 ears.
Yes, right.
So, you got to get past that.
Well, I mean, it's true, and you hear coaches say it in movies all the time, and I'm sure they say it in person too. Mine did when I was in high school and junior high. But the hardest battles that you will ever fight in this world are going to be with yourself.
That's right.
And talk about reclaiming your own identity. Why would you worry about what other people are saying when you can just go out there and kick ass with your own thoughts, with your own plans, with your own actions, and not worry about what they're saying, what they're thinking about you? Gosh, that stuff can get exhausting. That stuff can get overwhelming. And when you don't care, my goodness, those walks in the woods that you just got done talking about, well, obviously you might need to care about what somebody else is thinking when you're on the mat with them, because you're trying to counter everything that they're doing. But I mean, for those times where you're by yourself, don't worry about what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
When you're doing that self-inventory, be with yourself. When you're doing that mindfulness, don't worry about all of the things that are going on in reference to how other people are perceiving you, what other people are saying to you, what your boss. I mean, you might want to reflect on things that your boss is saying about your performance, but you're at the end of the day, it all comes back to what are you doing to be yourself, and what are you doing to make sure that you're not being held back by others, and you're not losing your sense of self.
I used to get this question when I was coaching leaders, and people would ask about these things, right? Oh, I'm nervous about what they think about me or the behaviors that I do or whatever. And I would always say, number one, who pays your mortgage? You pay your mortgage, not those people. So, unless you're doing something that's like completely off the rails from a social norm standpoint, then you know what? You're you. And you need to, as long as you can look yourself in the face in the mirror and not be disgusted and say, you know what? I'm proud of who I am. I'm going to, this is me. These are my unique qualities, my unique, capabilities. And I go out there and I kill it every single day. Then get back to being who you are.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what other people think, because other people don't pay your bills. You do.
No. Yep.
And if it's gotten you this far in life, being you, then let's keep on going.
Let's look at the opposite side of that. And, the reason that we're having this discussion is because we have some cool things that in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to start bringing up, because we're going to have some cool conversations that are probably very similar to this in the new year, but not exactly this, and that's that there are so many people that are very, very unhappy with who they are.
Yeah.
And, they don't take the time to do anything about it. And, there are a lot of things that go into that, and I'm not going to dive into our future topics. I'm just going to go generally here. But when you just let fear rule you, or because, when we have a job, why do we have a job? Well, because we got to put food on the table.
Right.
We have rent to pay. We have a mortgage to pay. We have to make sure we put clothes on our kids so when they go to school, they don't look like a rag bag. I mean, it's all of those things, right? So if you hate everything that you're doing, and that's that lingering thought in your mind, that's just one example. There could be many examples. Then, I mean, there are opportunities abound. So why not explore that?
Yeah. And you and I are not therapists. We're not psychologists. But
I've definitely been to enough therapy to be able to speak on the thing. So
yeah, so we've got some experience, right, to talk about it. But yeah, if you're feeling that way, there's nothing wrong with going and talking to a professional to help you get back on track. If that's where you're at, it really comes back to doing what's best for you. And when you feel that you've slipped, hey, is it a minor correction that you're able to deal with on your own? Is it something that, having a conversation with your wife or a good friend, and I mean, ask people. Don't be afraid to ask people. In the same way that you shouldn't be afraid to be yourself, ask your wife, hey, you know what? I'm feeling different. What's different about me? And she might say, well, you're a bigger asshole like lately.
That's
I don't know.
Question to ask your wife.
But you know what? That outside perspective, because we also don't, as we're going through life and we're going through the day to day, we don't always see the changes. We may not always, acknowledge them, but ask the people that you're around that you trust. And, if they're honest with you, which I hope you surround yourself with folks that would be honest with you, they'll give you the details. Like, yeah, you've been short-tempered lately. You've been whatever. So utilize that network of people that you have around you to help you stay grounded or get back to being grounded.
Well, so there's another part to this, right? Because change is not always bad. And,
right.
Your identity over time, it evolves.
Yep.
Because I would hope that if you're listening to this show right now or watching this show right now, that you have a growth mindset, because if we're trying to get better all the time, just even if it's just that 1% a day that we work so hard at, then growth should happen. So sometimes when you start having these aha moments and you start going on that growth path, that can also feel a little bit like a drift in identity, but it might not be. So be careful, because if you are trying to become the person that you want to be, and you start becoming that new person that you want to be while you're still yourself, just know that those changes are also okay. Change doesn't happen overnight, but sometimes it does happen abruptly after you've been working at it for a while. So and it could be in a conversation that you have with a peer. It could be in a decision that you just wake up and make one day to start a business, or maybe I want to work towards that promotion, or whatever the case may be. Just know that that's not drifting from your identity. That is growth.
Yes, that's a really good point, JJ. It's when you're being intentional about the change that you're making for yourself, in yourself, that's growth. And sometimes if you're purposely doing it, then it's a good thing. And you can do, dude, I don't know why these like recent conversations are relevant for today, but earlier this week, again, I was talking to someone about like, who I used to be, which, man, for so long, I was like a bull in a china shop, like very classic, like, let's just get in, let's move, let's go, 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 go. And, and then I got a little older and I realized, hey, you know what? Like, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I don't have to break things along the way. And I have like the entire top of my left arm is a tattoo of my spirit animal, which is like a raging bull. And there are times that if I feel like I'm moving too fast because I'm breaking things, I'll look down there and remind myself that like I'm not that same bull that breaks everything. So it's a little reminder that's with me literally every day, 24/7, that if I need to, I can say, dude, am I acting like you today? Okay. All right, let's go.
That reminds me of how I am when I'm working on a car. I think I break more things than I fix, but I think I had this conversation with you the other day where I may break more things than I fix, but I spend less money than I would if I was to take it to the shop.
Right.
But you're right. And this is all about not escaping who you are ever and just taking ownership. When you do that personal inventory that we talked about, that's all it is. This is all just about being intentional and taking ownership for who you are, the actions that you take, the conversations that you have, all of it. And identity, when you take ownership of that and you don't let yourself drift, you allow growth, but you don't allow drift from your values and what you feel is really, really important. It's just another form of ownership. Because when you take responsibility for yourself, that's probably the most important thing. And by the way, these are all things that if you can't do for yourself, it's going to be very difficult when you start leading others. So it's just one of those self-leadership traits that needs to be built. If you don't have it right away and you notice that, don't just sit on it, do something about it, but it can be developed.
100%.
So we are at almost 25 minutes, Chris. Before we go into our future topics, do you have any closing comments for this topic?
Yeah, my closing comment is like, pay attention to your inner dialogue and what you're saying to yourself in the mirror to be the first line of defense of, man, do I need to change something? Or have I changed in a negative way that I now need to bring myself back on course. Pay attention, because it can easily get away from you. You can easily just get sucked into, the day-to-day life, and then you look up 2 or 3 years later and like, where have I gone? I'm a totally different person. Pay attention. Change is good. If you're doing it intentionally and you're trying to be better, that's awesome. But you should also take inventory of that too. What am I doing to do better? If it's happening by accident and you're not getting better, then you need to recognize that and get back on course.
Yep. That's self-leadership, people. We talk so much about organizational leadership, and none of that stuff is actually important or even relevant if you can't lead yourself. So make sure you're taking that. The only thing I can really add to what Chris said is make sure you're taking that personal inventory. Make sure you're living life intentionally. Make sure that you can lead yourself. I mean, if you're on that journey where you already have others working for you, or you're thinking about starting that business and you want to have employees or whatever the case may be, just make sure that you can lead yourself, or at least work towards some of those qualities that you're not super impressed with in your own eyes about yourself, so that you can be more effective at running a business in that new leadership position that you just took at work, or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
Yep. So our next topics. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and say this is our last episode of the year, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, hoorah, hoorah, all of those things, right? But with the new year coming up, we are going to be talking about, on our next episode, which is on the 3rd, we're going to be talking about my phone. Sorry. We're not going to be talking about that. No, we're going to be talking about who you are and what type of leader you would like to be. And everyone talks about new year, new you. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
But we're not just going to talk about, are you the person that you want to be? We're going to talk about how it's okay to reinvent yourself if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great topic. It's very timely. We didn't plan it this way, right? We just happened to end our current season today on December 20th, and we go every 2 weeks. So as we were planning for our next season or next series, we wanted to do something quick and punchy. So we've only got 4 episodes on this topic. And we just want to get down and dirty, get to the heart of it, identifying where you want to be, who you want to be as a leader, and how to get there. And that's, we're going to go throughout the month of January and February. We're going to hit 4 topics over 8 weeks. And I think it's going to be really powerful, and it's a great way to start the year.
And if anybody is having problems with self-leadership and you're willing to work on that, these are going to be some really good topics. And again, we only do it once every 2 weeks. So, I mean, it's only for between 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes we go long, sometimes we just stay right around 30 minutes. But these are great topics. And we are really big on talking about actionable leadership advice that you can implement immediately. So when you think about what those shows are going to have in store, if this speaks to you, then this might be a great time for you to tune in for 30 minutes to an hour on a Saturday morning when you're the only one up anyway.
Yeah, go get your coffee, tune into Leadership Live, and make an investment in yourself.
As you should. And this is the best kind of investment because it's cheap. Yep. You just gotta stare at the screen you're staring at anyway.
That's right. That's right. Stop doom scrolling and just learn something for 30 minutes or so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Thank you, everybody, for following us on this journey, for following me on my journey. I noticed on Spotify and all of the podcast platforms that the views have been picking up. And I'll be posting a little bit about that because they've been sharing my statistics with me. So for the next couple weeks, up until the end of the year, I'll be sharing those with you. But I did not talk about it at the beginning of the podcast. Speak up, show up, lead. If you were talking about self-leadership and how it's okay to pull yourself up from your bootstraps, this is a good read.
Get the book.
I definitely had to do that. I think it was less pulling myself up from my bootstraps and more about pulling my head out of my ass, to be quite honest with you. But I think we all have to do that at one point.
We all have to do that sometime. Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. But, really it's important for us on these live social media platforms that you leave a comment below so that we know what you're thinking.
Leave a comment. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And we will see you back here on January 3rd to talk about reinventing yourself.
Indeed. Happy holidays, everybody.
Peace out.